This is Buck Barnhart. The audio portion of this. Robin Pasquale Barnhart is the technical department. This is a compilation of all the movie films by the Barnhart family from 1951 to 60. This was in 1953 with Bertha and Rainey Barnhart driving up to Buck and Nancy's place in their Dodge. The dog was Ichabod, and the baby is Craig, and the cigar is Rainey. And that's Craig's mother, Nancy Barnhart.
Now Martin?
Now Nancy Martin. This is a trip that we took for a ride, I think, to try out Rainey and Bertha's new car. Now this is okay. Now this picture, I don't know what baby this is. Maybe this is Bruce time.
I don't think this goes that way.
No, I guess that was Craig in the back seat. Anyway, we're driving south towards the Baldies. And the lady on the right is my grandmother Lefwick. On her place at 1721 East 12th. And that's Craig.
And what was her first name?
Her first name was Minnie Lefwick. And her husband died when I was in grade school. His name was Andrew Byerly Lefwick. They all called him Barley. And that's somebody's kitty up there. Grandma Lefwick. Now there's Nancy and Grandma and Craig.
Is that Bertha's mom or grandma?
Yeah, that was Bertha's mother, my grandmother, and for you kids it would be your great grandmother. And then after she died, we sold the house. They sold the house to George Barnhart. This was a picnic with Jim and Ruth Doyle. He was the county agent, worked with us in 4-H. That's Louise Freeman, Nancy's mother, or is it? And that was her cousin, whatever her name was here, and that's, oh boy, that's the aunt from Illinois.
And Margaret?
And Margaret, yeah, and do you remember her daughter's name?
Not right now, I don't.
I don't either, but they were out visiting us. And there's Hal Freeman and Craig.
I always remember his false teeth with the magnets.
Yeah, and when he was on a job and they needed to check whether it was stainless steel or not, they called him Doc, bring your teeth over here and see if this is stainless. So Free and Craig had just gone out to pick up the paper on Nielsen Road. Now this is a mountain drive, maybe, oh, no, this is a hunting trip. One of the few that I ever went on. Jim Doyle on the left, and I don't know who the other two are. This was up on Squirrel Creek, up above Beulah. And then Freeman, watch this, Freeman, got him in the leg when he pulled up on that horn. But Freeman got this one. There they are visiting again. The patch over Lois Freeman's left eye was from an ailment called myasthenia gravis. It took quite a while to diagnose it. And then when they diagnosed it, with injections daily, they were able to pretty well control it, and it didn't bother her too much. But it was a lot of problems until they figured out what it was. Free was a pipe fitter, and they hit quite a few jobs, up until probably the mid-50s, and they bought what was Wilson's Court trailer court and motel down on Santa Fe, where Patty's and the Highway Department are now. That's Uncle Jack, Lois's son. Craig is the long-haired one helping pack. That was a trailer they hooked onto their car when they took off. There's Uncle Jack helping pack. Howdy, Jack. And they kind of like having a spot that was home. And after so long, they decided that maybe they'd settle down here, and that's when they bought the motel and trailer park. That's Ruth. That's Uncle Ruth, Jack's wife. Not Uncle Ruth, Aunt Ruth. So they're headed out on the job. Come back and pick up the trailer later. Craig has his long curly hair cut off now.
Duffy Hartzell.
Yeah, this is on Highway 9 north of Highway 50. This was a trip about this time of year or a little later to go up and look at the trees, and they were beautiful. And here we are, the middle of September in 1995, and there's not a bit of color up in the high country yet. Snow will probably change it. There's some pretty good color and a nice country up there. For hunters, some of the biggest deer that have been taken in Colorado come up around the Guffey area. There's Nancy and Craig. He hadn't been walking too long. You have that to look forward to with Ben in a little bit, Pasquale.
Yeah.
There he goes. That's our 48 Plymouth? Must have been 48 Plymouth. And a 1953 model Craig. I don't know who was with us. Maybe we'll find out here in a minute, but just one of the color seeing trips. And the old, okay, here we are coming into Cripple Creek. A little bit different now with the gambling and all the everything that's going on there and how much it's changed. So quite a revitalization if that's the way you look at it. Yeah, and then we went down, all right, what's the name of this road, Pasquale? Gold Camp Road from Cripple Creek to Colorado Springs. There was no railroad roadbed, and they used it to haul ore from Cripple Creek to the spring. But floods and rain and stuff, I think it's pretty much inactive now. But it's a slow road, but very scenic. Pretty good rocks, beautiful color. And that little used Kodak camera we had, probably older than dirt when we got it, but it pretty good pictures considering these were taken, what, 30 years ago. That's Lois Quillen, Bill Quillen's wife. There's Cowboy Craig. Judy Stevenson. The black and white dog's Ichabod, and let's see who. Who else is there? Ichabod and Brown Dog, his friend or friendly. Oh, the one with the cow. That cowboy is Scott Stevenson. Excuse me. And this is Craig.
And back.
And that's Judy Stevenson.
That's Rainey.
That's Rainey. I'm trying to figure out who's on the left.
Oh, Charles, is it?
Yeah, I think that's my granddad, Charlie Barnhart. And who's there in the suit? I don't know. Yeah, but that's Judy. No, that's Judy. That's Kay, the little one in the red coat. And that's Scott up there climbing the mountains. And that's Craig for a haircut when he was in boots. And that's Friendly again. Friendly and Craig. And that,
Bruce.
no, not with the dress. Could that have been Kay? No. Could that have been Kay? No, that's somebody else who was out visiting us. There's Ichabod with Craig. And this was getting ready to go down to Borger, Texas, or Dallas, Texas. One or the other. I'll tell you when we get further along. We're going down there for Christmas. If we went to Dallas, it was Christmas. If it was Borger, it was more like summer or fall. That's our 53 Plymouth station wagon. Headed out, yeah, it must have been fall or winter because there was the snow. The Baldy Mountains. Headed on south. That's no, we weren't. We went north up to Denver. This isn't to Texas. This is to Denver to see the Richies. That's Frank Ritchie on the right, Scotty Ritchie. He was one of my best buddies in high school, and that's their son. That's probably Glenn. I don't remember the dog, but he was friendly.
Dust blowing? Or
Dust or snow. I don't know which it is. We'll have to figure out where the heck we're going. This one's kind of got me here for a bit. We'll figure it out. Oh, but that must be snow and haze. The camera work was fair. Like I say, these films, you figure they got to be 40 some years old. It's amazing they've retained their quality as well as they have. And okay, this is up at Greeley, and this I think is one of Montfort's Inslee pits. We went up there and had to tour their livestock operation. Probably we'll see some of the Bob and Willie Adams here at Greeley. Yeah, this was the Montfort operation, which was pretty immense at that time. And now this would dwarf. Now they dwarf it. This would probably hold 5,000 cattle at that time, and that was a gigantic thing. I remember we were driving down through there with Inslee's truck feeding the cattle, and we were following closer than we should in our station wagon. And this guy started back to finish unloading, and I killed the car, but we did get out of there before he backed over us. So we learned be careful when they're unloading insulates. Of course, Montfort got bigger and bigger, and then they've sold out. And
You can smell it just looking at it, can't you?
oh yes, and people said Greeley had a certain aura or aroma to it, and people complaining about the smell. But they tell a story that one pay period, Montfort paid everybody in $2 bills, so they could see that the feedlot was was injecting a lot of money into the economy. But they still have this feedlot, but they build out their bigger lots, hold 25, 40,000 head. They built them about 25 miles outside of town, and with the increase in the number of the cattle, why the Greeley area still has its certain aroma. Okay, yeah, we're going to this is to the Adams. I think I'll get this thing figured out here in a minute.
At our old house, or?
No, that was a Greeley at that's Bob Adams and his wife Willie, and some of my best friends. I'm trying to remember his kid's first name. I got trouble enough with my own. That's Craig playing with their dog. He was a friendly dog. But I think I told you we were headed for Texas when we started out on this escapade. But I'll tell you more about it in a minute. We went from Greeley over to Fort Collins, Colorado A&M. Well, this probably tells you what year it was. 1954, yeah. And we toured the what was then Aggies or Colorado A&M campus. Now it's the Utter University, Colorado CSU, Colorado State University. These were some dorms that were built after we left there. I started there in 46, graduated in 50. We were part of the post-war group, and the projection was that after the war they had 15 enrollment. It probably dropped to 1,000, but with all the veterans coming back, the enrollment jumped to 3,500. So they took the field house and divided that up into rooms. Then they moved in some old barracks out by the sheep barns, and I spent a year in those. But we did enlarge the campus. This is what was used to be the main part of the campus, the oval with the various buildings around it. That was the agricultural building. That was my palace of learning. And that was Braden Hall, which was a dorm. I don't remember what. Oh, there it is, South Hall. Several of us slept in those. Those were the barracks they moved in. They've been long gone from the campus. And again, I don't remember that building. This is Sigma Kappa House. I think these were Tri Delta, Gamma Phi Beta, and various sorority houses. Now we're back at Montfort's feedlot, taking one last swing through. But again, on this trip, I think we went to Nebraska to see Jack and Ruth. He was working on missile silos outside of Lincoln. So instead of where I said we were headed south, we were headed north up to Denver, saw the Richies, Greeley, and saw the Adams, and then I think we went on to Nebraska.
What's the most cattle we ever had on our farm?
Oh, probably 150. You know, we wouldn't even have filled up one pen for this operation. Yeah, and this is, anyway, we got to see Jack and Ruth and back home. Now this is it's a birthday party for somebody, with Grandma Freeman, Aunt Ruth, me, and Grandpa Freeman. There's Craig. Nancy must be taking the pictures. That was too old for Craig's birthday.
I still remember the cake pans.
Yeah, them revolving. And Grandma Freeman still had her eye patch on before they got the myasthenia gravis lined out. Father and son. No, drawing pictures on the kids' bellies, that was Grandpa Barnhart started that, and then I learned how to do it and use the belly button as an eye worked pretty well. That's Aunt Ruth with Craig. I've got to try to remember where this is. Looking at picture albums. Nancy and Craig. Your memory will go too, Pasquale, after 40 years, or it thins a little. You don't remember every detail.
Well, I don't remember any of this.
And for good reason. The fact that you weren't born, probably had a little something to do with it.
Jack?
Another birthday. Maybe it's Nancy's.
Too many cakes for Craig. I mean, candles.
Oh, yes, I guess. Now, I wonder if that was in Jack and Ruth's trailer, because they did have a trailer they lived in someplace over at Nucla, I know, when he worked on a power plant over there. But that Greg's pictures. Nancy got the mirror, so Craig gets to use it. How do you like that for good photography? Both of them there. Watch this. Jack, they entertained each other quite a while, trying to catch that napkin coming up through there. Craig got it. Got away. There it is. I don't know whether it's kids or adults that are easily entertained. No, I got it. I was taking pictures of something, but I don't think I took. Must have been something beside myself that I will shoot now. Same game, different player. Okay, this, and again, I don't know where the hell we were going, and with the flicker like that, That's because had the speed on the film or the camera set too slow. It should have been shooting a few more frames per second. That was Bob Quillen's filling station up across from where Boyd Whaley had his used car lot. Bob and Louis Becker ran that for a while, and this was in Oklahoma with some poor focus and again too slow a speed on the camera or the film. Maybe this time we were headed for, looked like summer.
Texas.
Well, in Oklahoma we might have been going to Borger, Texas, where Free was working down at Borger. No, it was Christmas, so this must have been in Dallas. Free was working on a Hilton hotel in Dallas. So does that make sense? It's Christmas. We headed south, so this must have been the Christmas with them in Dallas.
So how old was Craig there?
Oh, he's got to be probably get 2.5. Let's see. Well, he was born in August, so about 2.5. Cowboy Craig. Lois or Grandma Freeman. No, but see, Craig was the only child then, and boy, he made out like a bandit. By the time the rest of you guys came along, why, it got thinned out a little bit. I don't think any of you ever starved. Free's new jacket. Craig's Jeep that's too small for him. Yeah. Well, I remember he tried to ride this. See, he can only get it to go backwards. He couldn't get it to go forward. We tried to teach him, and here he goes. But all he could do was, for a while, was go backwards. There we go. Defective tricycle or defective motor. Bang. One gear, reverse. This was some of our touring down there around Fort Worth and Dallas. I think this is probably in Fort Worth, but I wouldn't bet on it. The two towns are pretty close together, and a lot of stuff runs together. Where we were in one, that's the other one there on the skyline. We were in Dallas. Maybe this is going to Fort Worth. Really you got to figure in like 55, something like that. Those were pretty big buildings. This is the Freemans had an apartment in this building here. Here we go. Don't get run over, Craig. Yeah, the Cotton Bowl is in Dallas, so that helps identify where we are, right? Yeah, there was a Cotton Bowl game was coming up, and well, we'll see if we can tell who's playing. TCU was one of them, Texas Christian University, and what does it say for the other one? Can you read it?
No.
Well, anyway, that's the two that we're playing. This must be going into Fort Worth. And then leaving and coming back home. New Mexico. And this, I think, is White City by Carlsbad Cavern. Yeah, these pictures were Carlsbad Cavern. By golly, I got that one right. And this is the big cave, walking down into it.
Like they use elevators now, don't they, or something? Or is that a different?
Yeah, I think if you want to, you can take the trail down. But I think a lot of it is elevator. And at this time, you could walk down. And then they'd start you back up, and the rangers would hustle you along pretty fast. They'd say, well, anybody wants to turn back, then go take the elevator. So they'd get you going pretty hard, and then you get to, well, this is the last chance to turn back. So they thinned out a lot of the people that way on their walk back up, which was not very scenic. But it is one heck of a place. And I believe that this film was not some that we took, but a commercially produced movie film that we bought, because it would, there's no way we could have had enough light to photograph those things. I'm trying to remember what year this was, and was this on the trip back? That makes sense. Well, we'll find out here pretty soon. But that's a beautiful, beautiful cavern. I think when we were in it, we went down to like 900 feet below ground. Then they had a level at 1,100, another one at 1,300, which they hadn't opened up yet, but they thought they might. But a lot of people go through there, and on these growing formations, it's in effect water seeping down. All right, there's water seeping down, and it all carries little dissolved amounts of limestone that build up and make these different formations. And I think the way to remember it is here's the flight of the bats, which I think happens in the spring. They bunch of bats live in the cave and come out every evening, and this is where an old cowboy named Jim White found the thing. He followed the bats to find out where they're coming from. This is by Wagon Mound, New Mexico. This coming over Raton Pass into Colorado. The Spanish Peaks, back in the home state. Welcome to Colorado. This is the old Raton Pass. It's been updated quite a bit now. And there's the Sangre de Cristos. So you know you're headed home. But a quick one on these growing needles that come from the roof and from the floor. interrupt. That's Fisher's Peak right up above Trinidad. But people say they couldn't remember stalagmites or stalactites. Well, somebody said the stalagmites come up from the floor because if you got on tights, the tights come down. So, and this was a trip we took with the Stevensons up to up above Trinidad. There he is. Went up there and picnicked and watched the buffalo. And again, catch the aspen. This will teach you on photography. You want to get the color of the aspen. Don't shoot looking toward the sun so it shines through them and fades them out. But again, that's Fisher's Peak. And this is a dust storm between Walsenburg and Pueblo. We're out on a ride with Grandpa and Grandma Barnhart, and this was, well, they're in probably about 55.
This will tell you.
Yeah. 55. Woozle and Fran. All right, taking off 55 and going to 56. That's almost 40 years ago, Pasquale. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, whose dog was that? Little dachshund. Oh, this was I think down in Borger, Texas, visiting the Freemans, where they were place they had rented down there. Craig, I forget that dog's name, but Craig's gonna hold on to him. He'll get him. There he goes. I think that's Borger.
I think we're switching to probably the third movie.
Okay, now that's
family movie.
That's my Uncle Stanley Leftwick, and that's his mother,
Bertha's
Minnie
brother.
Leftwick, Grandma Leftwick. That's my dad, Rainey Barnhart, your guy's grandpa, Juanita Minnick. That was Betty Leftwick's sister, and Grace Moore, who was, and that's Aunt Beverly. You can tell we're out of focus. Don't have to explain that to you. Grace Moore was Minnie's, I think, cousin. And that's Betty Leftwick, Stanley's wife. He was superintendent of schools in Pueblo County, and that's Judy Stevenson. He was responsible for the consolidation of the schools. Grandpa Barnhart,
Okay.
Kay Stevenson, Grandma Barnhart,
Craig.
Judy, and the one there, I don't know, that's Grandma Barnhart.
Leftwick's have kids, Stanley?
Yeah, they had two daughters,
Maybe it was one of them.
no, because they were, might have been, by golly, that could have been Sharon, come to think of it. But again, Stanley ended his career as deputy director of the State Department of Education in Colorado. He was there quite a while. This Marty Moore, he was a contractor. Grace Moore's husband, and I think Stanley Leftwick's Stanley's uncle. That's Kay Stevenson, and that's Judy, the little warts. There's Craig getting smothered. Obviously this is a birthday party or something. That's Scott Stevenson, ornery looking. Got some kind of bug. What's he got, a grasshopper? Stanley and Betty looking at some whatever. There's Nancy and Grace, and that must be Sharon Leftwick. There's Sharon right there. That's Sharon and Judy and Kay.
Okay, so Sharon.
And the other girl must have.
dancing earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's Beverly and her grandma Leftwick. And they're 4 generations. Grandma, Stanley and Betty. That's 1, 2, 3, and then Beverly with her baby. So there's 4 generations there. We can get it all figured out. Sharon, Ann Leftwick, Judy, there's Buck and Craig and Grandma Leftwick. Okay, Lois Freeman, Nancy's mother, had Christmas decorating someplace.
The Bruce ought to be here by now, huh?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. You know, we're talking. We had the license plates for 56. 56 that was the year of the rooster. So he ought to be showing up here pretty soon. Unless these are accidentally 1955, but if they're 56, there's got to be a rooster. Yeah, and Craig's starting to show his age there, so it must be 56. Everybody's got to help. Yeah, that's Craig. I'll bet you there's a rooster shows up in there someplace.
They're pretty boring when they're that young. Don't want to film them too much, right?
Yeah, that's right, that's right. Unless they're the first ones. Just like with Craig and just like you're doing with your first ones. And then after that, you save money for food by not shooting $100 worth of film every week or month. Craig's getting a lot of instructions on where to hang the decorations. A lot of help. I don't know what Craig's playing there. Whether he's hung up, trying to play like he's hiding. Now he's helping. Well, it'll be interesting to see if this is 55 or 56, won't it?
This is in Nielsen,
Yeah,
our house,
yeah.
before it was added on to. With a living room anyway, because that was done after I was in. So this is in what used to be, what was to later become the dining room?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we had the 3 rooms. We had the kitchen and this living room, and then the 1 bedroom. Then we added on a back porch. Then we added on another bedroom There'll be pictures of adding it on pretty soon. Well, Craig putting all the There's a rooster. This is the year of the rooster, Pasquale. Yep, so there's see the the old red rooster. He finally got to come out for Christmas, didn't he?
Used to call him Bruce.
Yeah. And then I think Donald Martin started calling him the Rhode Island Red, like a chicken, and then somebody called him the Rooster, and that name stuck. So, but actually it's Bruce. Officially Bruce Vernon Barnhart. Born in 1956, the year of the rooster. Now we get to watch Craig open presents. That was his rocking chair he got that year. And your mother made stockings for everybody. So where's the rooster? Okay, there's the rooster. At least there are 4 of them there. That look like a rooster?
Yeah.
You know, it's not nice to say, but for a while, he was the ugliest damn kid you ever saw. But then, a few months he changed, but, you know, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but he wasn't real beautiful for the first couple, 3 months. Most babies are, but he was different. And there's Craig helping his brother Rooster. Got all his toys. You can tell it's taken quite a while ago because the most modern toys were propeller-driven planes instead of jets. There it goes. Yeah, so this would have been Christmas of '56. You can see how Bruce is kind of setting up like that. And pretty soon we nicknamed him Turtle for a while. Because he'd get there like that on his hands and knees and hold his head up and look just like a turtle. So he's been a turtle and a Rhode Island Red and a rooster. Craig didn't get too many nicknames. Call him Horse once in a while, but he didn't have that many nicknames. The year of the rooster. See, he wasn't very old then. What, his birthday is in September, isn't it? October, November. He was only about 3 months old. So he's just about a month older than Sarah. Okay, there's. Have to pick him up quick. There's Nancy's dad. On the left, John Kumler and Grandma Leftwich. And then these are friends of, well, I'm flunking on that one. I think they were friends of the Kumlers. I forget their names. Yeah, but that's Nancy's dad and his wife. I think it's Mary. But again, I remember her dad, and I remember Remember her stepmother. Now there's the rooster with some hair. So we must be into 57 by now, huh? And for our pictures like this, we had a light bar with either 2 or 4 300-watt lights on it, and about the maximum depth you could get was 8 feet. So if anybody got real close like Craig did there, it washes out the color. There's a very short, effective, good distance. There's the rooster. Craig helping him.
Wearing a ball.
Yeah. Oh, Rooster, he almost got your mother and I locked up for child abuse. Because we always had him into the doctor for getting banged up for something. There was one, we'll talk about him getting banged up later. But this has got to be Christmas or Thanksgiving. Oh, and Craig's dressed in his suit. I think this was at Freeman's.
Were they in the trailer court then?
Well, that's what I was trying to think, where this did take place. Christmas? Craig had his suit on, so this must be Christmas of 57, huh? And I think this was that, well, we'll find out. There's Uncle Jack and Aunt Roots, you're smooching. There's Grandma Freeman. Craig. With his suit. There's the rooster with a box of something. Jack's digging his pocket for a knife so he can open somebody's package. No, that was out of our house.
This could be the next day.
It could be, there he is. That's the rooster not completely awake on Christmas Day. You remember those things? You'd squeeze the bulb
Yeah.
and the frog would beat the drum or whatever. But I'm going to tell you about Bruce almost getting us thrown in jail for child abuse. There was one time he'd run clear across the living room floor. And I don't know if you remember the coffee table we had at the far end by the sofa. He ran into it, put a big gash in his head up here. So we took him in, and Ted Miller jokingly asked if it was child abuse. Then it wasn't 3 or 4 days later, he was running across the living room and fell against the stove and burned his hand. So he's got the knot on his head and a big bandage on his hand. And people are wondering what kind of parents we were. There's Machine Gun Kelly. Name of Freg. Harmonica. You did a good job putting these together, Pasquale.
Thanks.
You got a pretty good technical department here. But you learned some things about the family when you're working on this that you didn't remember? Or?
It jogged memories.
Yeah. Gotta get him. Vicious, tough kid. Look at that right he throws. Need to keep it left up a little bit more, but throw that right. There's Grandpa Barnhart with a Christmas shirt and Bruce. Craig with more presents. I guess these poor farm kids always got a few presents, didn't they? Oh, we got pictures of them opening them. Judy Stevenson. Rooster's got a ball or something. Grandma Leftwick again. And back there is Uncle Larry Stevenson's dad, Lloyd Stevenson. Probably one of the few pictures we've got of him, and there was one of those things earlier I said I don't know who the fella in the dark suit is. That could have been Larry's dad at that time. I don't know what we're doing here or where. Picnic someplace. Oh, this is Grandma Leftwick's place up on West 12th, or East 12th. Who all do we see? There's Judy. There's Scott, Craig, Juanita Minnick, Nancy and Craig and Bruce. Now see, there's one of those strips across his head where he ran into something and got nailed. Get his parents thrown in the pokey. This must have been at the park. He's looking for something else to fall into. Two crazy brothers. You see on his left cheek, he's got a spot there where he fell into a stick or something and got that scratched up. Then when he was like that, and then in the wintertime got that hand burnt, why you can see why your mother and I were suspect. I don't know what picnic this was. There's the rooster and his older brother riding his own horse. The bear tamer. Yeah, this was the old zoo out of City Park, and then the train ride. The biggest train they'd been on at that time. So I remember we rode that thing a couple times. What's kind of a neat train there. People got a lot of fun out of it. And then there's Cowboy Craig again.
You and her steering on the other one?
I guess, looks like it, doesn't it? I think that's probably Scott and Craig, but I don't know. No, some little girl, isn't it? I don't know. We'll see if we can pick it up. Yeah, they had some nice rides for the kids out there at City Park. Gotta go on the horse again. Then you always have to feed the ducks. Craig's trying to draw them into shores. Come right up next to him. He liked that. Don't let them get you, Craig. They're big. Okay, here's another Christmas tree going. This could be in 58. That'd be about right. Rooster's getting big enough. And Craig setting up the creche. Pepsodent Smile. Orthodontist loved it. Well, we're back to another Christmas, Pasquale. So I think this is 58.
Okay.
Seemed like that all you guys did was have Christmas and birthdays, huh?
Craig ought to be in school this year or next, huh?
Yeah. Born in 53. Yeah, he must have started in 59 because he graduated in 71. Got their tractors. Rooster eating a candy cane. Craig gets to distribute everything for everybody. What's Rooster doing? Got a book to read or tear up? Oh, a fish, all right. Craig was always very good at opening presents. He got a fish.
Looks happy.
Huh?
He looks happy with it.
Yeah. So he and Rooster both got fish different. Bow, bow. Okay. Snowman time. So this could be probably in 59. Not a very big snow, but enough to play in. The sculptor there at work. Beautiful work, beautiful work. Yeah, Bruce and Craig got to check him out. Make sure his nose is okay and not running. Eating snow. Say that that fella's growing all the time, isn't he? All right, now. Okay, you see how we're loading everything up there, Rob? That's what you guys will be doing. You take 2 kids someplace, it's a good thing you got the big pickup, because you'll have a load whenever you go somewhere. That was Woozle. I think we're going up to Beulah to go play in the snow and go sledding. But that's when the wind was blowing and we're watching the tumbleweeds really roll and blow that day. They were spreading the seed pretty well. Here they come. They were really moving.
What is that, 96 Road to Beulah?
It's 76 now, or 78. 96 goes on out to Wetmore, but it's 76 or 78. And then the Hitching Post Inn is at the bottom of Beulah Hill. If you take to the right, it goes up North Creek, and the left goes on over toward Beulah. So we parked and went on up in there and let these guys sled for a bit. There he goes. Got a pretty good run. Now here goes a pair of them. This is the 2-man bobsled team of 1958. Getting the ruts just right. They got a pretty good long run. Don't eat the yellow snow, Bruce. I remember we were up there and some guy came up in his car. He didn't have snow tires or anything else. He came up there where we'd been sledding, and he would just hoot along as fast as he could. Got up there, just slipped the edge and got stuck, and he just grabbed his shovel and got out and started digging just like he'd planned. Just like he had planned to get stuck. It made you wonder about him. Here's a rolling snowman. No, that was a pretty good day's run on the sled. Okay, this is up in Littleton at Stanley and Betty's house. I don't know where we'd been or why we were there, but I can tell you that's where it is. Whether it was for some, well, we'll see what's going on inside. I guess we won't. This looks like in Red Rocks Park, west of Denver, but I won't bet on it. Maybe we'll find out here in a minute. This doesn't ring a bell. But it's kind of pretty. Could be going up to the amphitheater up there for something in Red Rocks. But I didn't see. Yeah, that's what it is. Red Rocks Theater up by Morrison, west of Denver. Supposed to have some of the best acoustics of any outdoor auditorium that there is. Okay, there are the two campers. The Cannoneers. Don't know whether this was at Mineral. Nope, this is the High Podner Park out at the entrance to the Ordnance Depot. We had 4-H picnics there.
Out east of town?
Yeah, out east of town, ever so often. Give you some idea of some of the bombs they dropped in World War II. There's Uncle Larry with his mustache. I was trying to remember when the centennial was. No, that wasn't. What did we grow those stupid beards for? When was the gold rush, Pasquale? Centennial. Would have been 76.
But it was for some event?
Yeah, some statewide event that summer. There it goes. You know how that's like. I was trying to remember what the heck that was for. Huh. Maybe your mother can remember. Nothing like a good close shave. But a lot of us grew those beards, handlebars, sideburns. I'll bet you it was 59. Because the 49ers went to California. So they were 10 years later to Colorado. So that was probably 59 that we grew the beards. Kind of a dumb looking kid, isn't he? But
Yeah.
twins
Glad I'm
were-
not related to him.
Yeah, you're lucky. Oh, but like I was saying, this the whiskers must have been 59 because the 49ers, you know, in California, 49, Colorado Gold Rush was 10 years later. So yeah. So this must be Christmas of 59. We got the decorators at work. And so the next year is going to be the year of the Pasquale, isn't it? 60, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if we'll get into that much till another tape.
Well, you and I have talked. It's kind of a shame.
I saved the best for last.
Good, good. But the first kid gets all the filming and everything else, and the last ones get maybe a snapshot of a graduation or something. But
Yeah, Ross really got shorted.
yeah, Ross didn't get hardly anything, except 3 neat brothers. Okay, there's Rooster with his new robe. But when we get further along on these, you'll find out that you're just as good at opening packages as your brothers were. In fact, maybe you had to open them quicker because you're afraid they might get them. Pasquale, I'm still pleased that this film has held up this well.
Yeah.
And the colors
Good color.
after 40 some years. You know, because the dyes and the techniques and the other things, maybe there's good there as we got now, I don't know. Football, maybe that was typical for Craig to get. No, but Roscoe got shortchanged the most, but I don't think you got a whole heck of a lot, did you, in the way of footage?
No, but a lot more than Ross. Ross didn't get much at all.
Well, that shows what happens when you're late to the party. Nail
Pipe
puller.
there?
Huh?
What is it?
Nail puller is built like a screwdriver, only the end is forked and it's kind of at an angle so you can stick it under the head of a nail and pull it out. Okay, that's Larry Adams, the folks from my roommates from Greeley, and Rooster and Craig, and that's roommate Bob and his wife,
Mrs. Bob.
Mrs. Bob. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. But Larry, and what was his daughter's name? Marianne, I don't remember. But anyway, with that, they were down to visit just like that time we're up to see them.
Big old tree coming down.
Yeah, part of the Booth ditch, trying to get all the water they could. They cut down a whole bunch of these big old cottonwood trees.
That one looked like it'd been dead a while anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was between our house and the road. And that's Glenn Reinhardt using the saw. Grandpa Barnhart there on the ground. So we just cut those suckers down and burn them. They're supposed to use several thousand gallons of water apiece per day. So we just started to head into the ditch, and then when you look on west, we got all those cut down. Really cut down quite a few trees. And of course we burned all this before we ever had a fireplace at home to use the wood. But a lot of heat created there. Whether it saved enough or much water, I don't know, but it did. keep those old trees from falling on people's cars and houses and blocking the ditch. That's hot right in there. Take a long stick to roast a marshmallow there. Okay, and then this is moving, I guess what they politely call Erunam, E-R-U-N-A-M. Backward is manure, or has been called some other thing. But cleaning up clean out the feedlot over at the old brick house, which was north of the city sewage disposal plant. That old brick house, that was a goldsmith place, I think, built in the 1880s, something like that. Probably a outstanding old home at one time in Pueblo's history, but gradually kind of went downhill. That's Grandpa Barnhart running the loader. Stuff really, cattle walking over and pack it down. But this is a feedlot where we.
And you took that and what?
Then we'd haul it down like this, down to the field, closer to where we're going to use it, and then spread it. We'd load it again on manure spreaders and haul it out and spread it out over what field we wanted to use it on. Then this is me using a tumblebug plow by the house. When we get to the end of the row and trip it, you can see why they call it a tumblebug. It just turns over. I think this may go back a little ways, and that's Craig. So this was earlier in the sequence, but the plowing is still just the same. That was the case. DC tractors, sometimes we called the Widowmaker. It could give you a workout before the day was over. Now watch the plow. It looks like it's going to tear up, but it doesn't. It just pivots on its own axle. And then the plowshares come down that are plowing and throwing the furrow back to the other way. In the wheat farms where they don't irrigate, where they just they don't need to worry about keeping the ground level like we do here. But this way you're moving the ground the same way all the time, and it's theoretically level when you get through. This was at our place. Yeah, there's our house. There comes the foreman out to make sure that everything is being handled all right. Then after you plow it, you probably disc it, and then, or if it's frozen well, the soil will break down. Why then you use the spike tooth harrow to break it up and make it smooth. Now that was a brilliant roller we used. I finally got the idea, why not get a hook and hook that right behind the disc. So we did, so we could do both things in one trip. And now we're back plowing again. Now here we are. Now that this is the disc. After I told you we learned to hook the roller onto it and do two operations with one. I don't know why sometimes in movies the wheels look like they're turning backward. Now when I got ready to stop, you notice they turned around and went forward. Miraculous. Okay. You know what makes it work that way, huh? Yeah, look at that thing running backwards. amazing we got any work done. Yeah, that was Craig. So we plowed it and used a disc and roller over it. And then go with the Everland land leveler to level it down to get it ready to plant. And then in the summertime, to keep the big heavy grass would grow up around the main ditch, the boot ditch, so that the water wouldn't get through too well. So we rented one of those big weed burners to do that. And then we bought our own smaller weed burner to burn out our own ditches. Now you can see this grass looks kind of brown and burns pretty easy. That's because we've gone through once and singed it and then give it time to dry up, then come back and hit it the second time and it burns well. This Glenn Reinhardt on his Ferguson tractor, that was his pride and joy. He was booth ditch rider, manager for the booth ditch. Then he also worked with us on the farm, and he liked doing hay. They bought this Ferguson tractor, and he had a good time with it. Now raking the hay with a side delivery rake, putting it in the windrow. Here he comes. Now with a baler, you just come along and picks up those windrows, and you got it. And after you bale it, then you come along and with physical muscle pick up the hay bales and hay hooks. You guys all got to do a little bit of that. With a New Holland hay baler, baling the hay.
Did those machines use wire or twine, either one, or?
No, they're set up to use one or the other. We use twine. Feeding cattle, we didn't want wire because if you get too much, you get wire and get it into cattle's stomach, why you can puncture it and kill them. So we just went to the twine, and it's easier to dispose of than the wire. And this was combining barley on Willard's place right above ours. A guy named Dolson had this little combine, and he'd come around combine for folks with small fields like we had. We never did buy a combine. We never raised enough grain to feel we could justify it. That thing always kind of waddled like a duck going down through the field. It was kind of funny to watch. And when we got insects need some special treatment, so this is some of the special treatment on a cornfield, spraying for, I think, earworms. But these spray pilots, I think they're halfway chicken. They're probably afraid to get over 600 or 800 feet off the ground, the height that scare them. But when this guy came in and landed, I was out at the airport loading him with insecticide. And when he landed, the landing gear had onion tops hung in it. So you know how low he was cruising when he was spraying onions. Then this is picking corn with a one row Wood Brothers corn picker. We used to do it that way before we combined it. And you see what they would pick the ears off, put them in a wagon, then we'd pile it up and grind it for cattle feed. But then eventually it was easier to get somebody went in with a combine and combine it, because then you had a shelled corn which was easier to handle than the ear corn. The ear corn, you either got to shell it afterwards or grind it up and use it the way it is. This is a dirt crew working on the ditch out there by our house. That was Glenn Reinhardt's little Ferguson tractor with his with the blade. And this is how we fed the cattle when they're on fattening ration. And here they come walking up through the field. We'd go in and load up the hay and take it up and throw it in the feed bunks and put the feed in the feed bunks, and the cattle had been pasturing down on the corn stalks, picking up whatever corn was out in the field. So then they'd start heading for the feed lot. You see, now they're all there. So then when they get there, by that time we've got the corn. See, this is shoveling the shell corn onto the hay that's in the bunk. So in a minute we'll open the gate. Here comes George Barnhart out with a bucket of protein pellets. That's like putting the sugar on top. And they're all there, so here they come, ready for lunch. But see, our operation nowhere the size of Montford's, Pasquale.
Celery.
Celery time. This was preparing seed beds at Fleischer's greenhouse. To get an early start on celery, we'd plant inside in seed beds at the greenhouse.
What are you throwing in there?
That's a mixture of manure and the dirt. You mix the two together. See, the dirt's only about as thick as you can see on those boards over there. And so then level her down, and then you take like a 1x4, and then you can see those little rows there. Get a guy on each side with a hammer, hold the 1x4 on edge. Each of you tap it on the end, move on over. That's how you make all your rows. And then this is the fancy seeders we used to seed the seed. They were called Willard and Rainey. Then after you get it seeded, then next you go in. See, he's leveling it down now, getting it ready to make those rows. But after you got it seeded, then you'd go in there and with fine sand, sprinkle fine sand over the top of the seed so it wouldn't float up. Then after you got the sand in there, hold the seed.
Great grandpa there?
No, that's Wally Fleischer. He's the guy that owned the greenhouse.
Okay.
I see, he saw him taking his picture. So he whips off his hat so I can get full view of him. Yeah, see, now they're making the, see, that's how you make the little furrows.
And you said that's Uncle Willard working with Grandpa?
Yeah. Uncle Willard on the left and Grandpa on the right. Tell you what, that's hard work, because those beds are about the height. You're just kind of stooped over and halfway bent over all the time you're working on them. And it's work. And here's some of his flowers. He was a pretty good greenhouse man. Proud of his flowers. But it's hot in there. Okay, now that's Grandpa Barnhart. You see, he's putting the sand over the seed to keep it from floating out. I think it's what they call a very labor-intensive procedure. Does that make sense? Yeah, see, putting just a little sand over there so the seeds don't float out. And when you get that done, you take the hose and run water on each one of those rows to get her soaked in like that. So that's how you irrigate in the greenhouse if you're raising celery plants. Looking back on it, I question whether it was too viable a deal to do this, because we got our celery, we got it earlier, but demand wasn't that great, and I question if it was worth the cost. These are this is the field seed bed, and you can see the lines of celery plants there. That's Grandpa Barnhart using one of the little push hose. You may have one here out in your yard, I don't know. And then this is weeding it, and on the left is Willard, in the middle Glenn Reinhardt, and on the right is Grandpa. Then after doing all this for 100 years, I was reading one of my school books one night from college and found out you could spray this with stuff called Stanisol and kill all the weeds and not have to do all this stuff. You can spray both celery and cabbage. They're somehow the same family or something. And you can get the weeds, you can kill those weeds out that way. But they tell stories about guys that have sprayed cabbage fields and get off and light up a cigarette and throw the match down and burn up the rows right behind them where they came up through there. Now this one, the celery plants are grown and picking them, getting ready to plant them. So I'm not going to be able to remember all these people for you. But you probably wouldn't know them anyway. I think that was Hilbert Montoya. He was killed in a car wreck on I-25. And on the left is Joe Mondragon, Joe McGregor. I think that's Zeke Orteves there. He worked with us for a long time. Hard work. That's Paul Garul here in the front. Shorty. He kind of grew up down there. And now look behind on the bank, you can see all those trees there. That was some more of them that we cut down like we showed you in that earlier program. Oh, but Paul worked for the folks all up till after World War II, went in the Army, and then came back and he got a job at CF&I. And then here's washing the celery plants, get the dirt off of the roots so they'll be easier to transplant. then this is how to exercise your back. Stick these things in the ground with your finger, 6 to 8 inches apart, and just at the right depth so the root's all buried but none of the top is. You do that all day and your back feels like it's been used a little. You didn't get in on any of that, did you, Pasquale?
Not that, I did some washing.
Yeah, the washing, yeah. Yeah, and then we sold the ditch water about the time you got big enough to. I'm sorry you didn't get a chance to go through this. It would make your present job seem very, very delightful.
Peter Howells and I watched together for a little bit.
Yeah. The last few years I said I used the disadvantaged kids. All of you were Anglos and your fathers worked for a living, where before we'd used the Mexican guys, and these were all pretty good folks. We had a few that were, without being nasty, the welfare, or their family were the welfare type, but all these kids were willing to work, and that is work doing that. There's about 25,000 plants that go into an acre of celery. And so when we planted, 15, 20 acres, somebody got to stick their finger in the ground quite a bit. Now this is a celery planting machine that we bought out of Denver, and supposed to transplant by itself. So we'd get it headed down the row and tie the wheel so it would stay in line. There's Willard, Lauren Hawkins, and Hilbert Montoya. You put the plants in this little pocket, and they're supposed to plant them, stick them on the side of the row. Now in Denver they had good luck with it, but somehow we never made it work. I think it's something where we should have spent the extra money and had Jimmy Kane come down from Denver and get us lined out to make it work, because it was more even, cheaper than doing it the other way. But I guess we figured we'd put enough money in it we couldn't afford to spend any more, which with hindsight that's a mistake. And then the weeds grow, of course, so then got to get in there and hoe the weeds out. Then we did find out about a spray that would pretty well keep the weeds from coming in, some stuff called Vegedex. And so we planted it, and it made the weeding much less of a problem.
Preventer?
Yeah, it's wasn't a soil sterilant, but it kept the weeds from coming up, but it didn't interfere with the celery. And now here's getting ready to trench the celery. Take the cutter, cut the stuff, the tops and the roots loose from the ground. You might have played a little with some of this. Cut 4 rows, pile them back, 2 on each side, then cut a trench down through the middle of it. And there's Craig and Woozle and Hal Freeman. So this is back when Craig was a little younger than the last part of the film, but the method is still the same. Yeah. And someplace through here, I guess we got to roll to damn near all Craig, isn't it?
Oh shit, we got a couple hours of Craig.
Since he's the firstborn, why, he got all the time. But by the time we got him a haircut, he was a cute little girl. We just didn't want to bring ourselves to having his haircut. But yeah, like I was saying, good thing Ben and Sarah are right here together, because if you shoot one, you got to shoot the other. But like with Craig, there was nobody around and he got all the pictures, and then, like you say, poor old Roscoe, he's lucky if he even got a snapshot. Now this is how we bought this machine out of Denver to cut trenches.
You had to chain the tractors together, kind of like
Yeah.
double locomotives.
Yeah, it took two tractors to pull it, because this nothing scientific, just a heavy dirt moving thing. But it take two, sometimes three tractors.
Well, you always had nice light soil down there too, right?
Yeah, about like
Right, soil.
about like almost set up concrete. No, a lot of adobe. They said that's what made the celery grow good. I don't know. But used to, we had to dig those trenches. We'd dig them by hand. We had an L-shaped blade and run it down one side, down the other side, and about 6 inches deep, and then go through with shovel and dig out the first 6 inches. Then go back with that cutter or blade and do it again. Then you come back with shovels and dig it out another 6 inches. So it took longer to dig the trench than it did to put the celery in. So when we got this trencher, why, it cut our costs down substantially, because cutting a trench was just the time it took to drive a tractor through the field instead of a half a day or a day to dig the sucker out. And that's what we call kicking it in. Grab an armful and put it in there, and then kick the roots and pack it in tight. Then cover it up. And after you get it all covered up good, then you get a chance to uncover it and get it out of the trench and cut it. This George Barnhart uncovering, he wished I'd quit shooting so he could quit digging. And that's Dad Rainey Barnhart cutting there. That's Emmett Skelton. We didn't have too many left-handed celery cutters. But you see, after you that Jim Mondragon, Joe Mondragon's brother. But after you bury it, the heart grows up through the center, but you can see that most of what you put in the ground really gets thrown away. So with this stuff, you plant the celery, you plant it 3 times. You plant the seed. When it gets growing good, you pull it up and transplant it into the field. Now when it gets growing good again, you pick it up and cut it loose and put it in the trench. So when you dig it out of the trench, that's about all you can do to it. That's the last of it. This is Pete Garuli here in front. He's the father of Paul Garul I showed you earlier. But these guys have worked around with the folks for years and years. And Pete's eyes were getting pretty bad by then, but just pretty good old boys. Of course, looking back, I should have kept a camera there all the time, because they all worked a lot faster when they were getting their pictures taken. Hi, Joe. Zeke Orteves. He was the closest thing to the steadiest hand we had, and closest thing to a wino. Okay, though, this is
Baxter dedication.
Baxter dedication of Baxter School. In probably 19...
School groundbreaking and then the dedication.
Okay, the groundbreaking first? Okay. And Stanley left, he had worked on... Oh, here they go. Let's let them break the ground. But Stanley had worked to get the school districts organized, and they did. And then they needed a school, and the next thing to do was get a bond issue passed to build them. That was Mel Summerall. He was on the school board. Norma Holtz, who was a good school worker. Ms. Nussbaum was a teacher. Did you have her?
I remember her.
Yeah, I think she taught most of you guys.
I don't know if she was teaching. Did she turn into a principal?
Maybe she was principal, yeah. So after the groundbreaking, why then had the dedication. And we didn't get anybody famous, but the Navy sent an Admiral Arleigh Burke out to give speeches, and God, we were all impressed. He flew out in his shiny C-54 and landed at the airport and went to all the different schools that were being dedicated. It was really a pretty great day for the rural school districts. Like I say, Stanley worked to get them organized, and then this was the part of the culmination or fruition of his efforts. And of course I was working on it. None of the kids were old enough, but if you're gonna, you don't build schools overnight, so I started working on it so maybe they'd have schools done when they got ready to go, and by golly they did. Craig started here. This was really quite outstanding to have this military helicopter land there at Baxter School, and the Admiral get out, give a little speech. It was very impressive for those of us that had worked on it. I almost got to ride in one of these suckers when I got called back in the Marine Corps in the Korean thing, but somehow I never did get off the ground. I guess they set off the smoke bomb so they could see where the way was to land. I didn't remember that many helicopters coming in, but I also wasn't able to go back and take that many shots, so we'll see how many are there. Poor photographer shooting into the sun. I think that's Admiral Burke there. I don't know what he did that was famous except come out and dedicate Baxter School. So his hand to his mouth, Cecil Mullins, the principal of the school district, or superintendent. Probably the military supplied the first flag to fly over to school. But it was really quite a touching day for those of us that had worked on it, because there had been a lot of animosity from some of the people because they didn't want to pay any extra taxes. There's Nancy. Well, I see at least 2, 3 helicopters. So much, yeah, must have been 4 of them that came in. Here comes something, I guess. The Admiral's waving goodbye to his assembled public. That must be the scout group. He's going to lead them to the next place they go. Army, so they must have brought those helicopters down from Fort Carson to ferry the Admiral around. And that's Bill Holtz that just ducked under there, scout leader, and he and his wife were. It's certainly been a pleasure watching these, and Robin to be congratulated for his job putting these films together. It's something I've thought about and talked about for years, and my intention to help pave the way to wherever it is it's headed. But Nancy and I took a lot of these pictures, and we got another roll or 2 you'll have. But it gives them pretty good pictorial reference of what the clan is like, and kind of how we grew up and what we did and didn't do. So anyway, congratulations to Pasquale, and we'll get on to the next ones and see the rest of them. And long live the Barnhart clan.